The big story that we're tracking this hour is on India and China. Both the countries have reached a breakthrough agreement on patrolling arrangements along the line of actual control. India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said that in a briefing held earlier in the day today. In fact, Misri also added the diplomatic and military negotiators from both sides have held several rounds of talks during the past few weeks. Now, interestingly, the timing of this announcement cannot be missed. This comes just on the eve of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Russia for the BRICS summit, and during which he's likely to come face-to-face with Chinese President Xi Jinping. There could also be a bilateral that has not yet been confirmed by MEA, but MEA has suggested how this is expected to lead to an eventual disengagement at the border and a resolution of a 4-year-old military standoff. Remember, ties between the two nations have worsened, have been strained since clashes between Indian and Chinese troops left several soldiers dead in 2020. Let's listen into an excerpt of what Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri had to say on LAC patrolling agreement and where does India really see ties between the two nations. And then, of course, we'll go over to the guest who's joined us tonight, Ashok Sajjanar, former ambassador. Let's listen into Foreign Secretary first on what he had to say on this arrangement.
We've been in discussions with Chinese interlocutors, both at a diplomatic level, through the WMCC and through the at the military level as well, through meetings of the military commanders at various levels. These discussions had in the past resulted in the resolution of standoffs at various locations. You're also aware that there were a few areas and few locations where the standoff had not been resolved. Now, as a result of the discussions that have taken place over the last several weeks, an agreement has been arrived at on patrolling arrangements along the line of actual control in the India-China border areas. And this is leading to disengagement and eventually a resolution of the issues that had arisen in these areas in 2020.
And let's discuss this further with our guest who's joining us tonight, Ashok Sajjanar, former ambassador. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us this evening on ET Now. This is a massive breakthrough that has been achieved on the eve of the BRICS summit, where the Indian and Chinese premiers are expected to come face to face. Talk to us about the strategic play here. Are the decks cleared for a possible Modi-Xi meeting then?
Mehta, for having me on your show. Yes, I think that's what it looks like. That, even in the other meetings, you would recall that when the two leaders had met in 2022 on the sidelines of the G20 in Bali or in Johannesburg, there was an exchange of, curtsies and, some discussions. But now, of course, and the disengagement is taking place, patrolling will be resumed. The situation status quo ante of April 2020 has been restored. That is what India had been demanding. China had been saying that things are okay on the border and let's resume our normal links as far as trade, economy, commerce, investment, etc. But India had always maintained that the situation was not normal, and for situation to become normal, we need to have an status quo ante of April 2020. That has been attained, that has been achieved. So possibly it could lead to a meeting, and I think that would be, this announcement itself has sent out a very important signal message all around the world. It's not only for India and China, because all the other capitals are also watching what is happening here. And if the meeting takes place, I think that will be a further enhance the impact.
Sure. Ambassador, we'll talk about the geopolitical dynamics at play here in just a bit. But let me ask you, what happens next in the disengagement process? This is perhaps one of the very initial few steps that is taking place. What happens next, and is this enough for normalization of ties?
No, it is not enough. There are 2 or 3 things that will need to follow, because if you remember what Dr. Jaishankar in one of his meetings had said, we've resolved about 75% of the disengagement process. That is 5 out of 7 patrolling points, they had been resolved. But now the most important ones, the remaining ones, that is Depsang and Demchok, they have also been resolved. So as far as the disengagement and the patrolling is concerned, That has been resolved, and now where we'll come to is in terms of de-escalation and de-induction of our forces. You know, we have 50, 60,000 of our troops that have been stationed there. So also the Chinese who have been stationed there for the last 4 years. They have been during the winters also, which can be very troubling, which can be a very challenging time to be there, but our troops have managed to stay there. So if the de-escalation and de-induction takes place, at least they'll be able to come back. But even more importantly, I think bilateral trust has suffered, Sumita, so badly as a result of what China did in April 2020. It has sort of, literally torn the agreements of 1993, 1996, 2005 confidence building measure agreement. It has torn it to shreds and moved in
Sure.
there. So I think to build that
Sure.
trust will require a lot of work. And what will replace those agreements? Because those agreements are no longer workable. We've seen that China has, with impunity, has
Okay.
violated them. So we'll really have to work on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ambassador, we do hope that a start has been made so far as reaching the normalization in ties between the two nations is concerned. Like I said, it's a massive exercise. Negotiations have been on. 32 rounds have happened, including military rounds as well. Like I said, it's a shot in the arm for India on the eve of the BRICS summit. But one wants to understand what has really caused China to blink, and what has really changed now in the October of 2024? What's brought about this change from the Chinese side?
I think one of the reasons could be that, number one, it's having lots of problems domestically, whether it's the economy, whether it is, its relations with the United States. So it has lots of problems. And of course, as far as India is concerned, it's a big market. We, of course, as far as trade is there, we have good trade volumes in which China has a positive balance of trade. But of course, if relations are normal, investment and trade can increase manyfold. I think the second point is that ultimately the strong position that India has taken, that we will not come to business as usual unless there is peace and tranquility on the border. And as far as we are concerned, we found so far that the situation on the border was abnormal. So unless the situation became normal with the restoration of the status quo ante of April 2020, there could not be any business as usual. And I think the strong position that India has taken and the strong stand by maintaining its troop strength there for all these 4 years, including the winters, I think this has possibly registered itself as far as China is concerned, that India is not going to change its position, notwithstanding what China must say. China would have thought that, we have the economic capacity to be able to station our troops there. But India will not be able to do that.
Right.
But India has shown that it can do it.
Absolutely, and it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to look at, Ambassador, whether India really, how soon those conversations on Chinese investments into the country will begin, and if India will indeed be keen to have a relook at some of the investments that were blocked, of course, as an aftermath of the 2020 skirmishes. But let me also ask you, Ambassador, there are skeptics who say that China is yet to publish information, or perhaps a joint statement hasn't really come about, even though Foreign Secretary has come on record to confirm this. Is this something amiss that you see, and do you agree with those skeptics here?
No, I don't agree with those skeptics. You see, China has been talking about this for the last several weeks. The talk from India, from New Delhi, has been much more muted. From China, every second day there would be sort of, some comment, some statement saying that, things are getting better, things are on the mend, things are improving. So it is China which has been particularly keen that things should normalize, and that is why it has been sending out this message, at times correctly, at times, in a rather exaggerated way. So I don't take it that, they have not come out with any written statement. That way, there's been no written document from India also. There has been just these statements by the External Affairs Minister at the NDTV summit, and also by the foreign secretary. So I think these are initial steps. I fully agree with you that this is a huge development and has a huge impact globally, the world over. But the full details are yet to be out, and we will need to see the full details. What are the
And of course, Ambassador, we'll be looking at some of those details, because this seems like a genuine diplomatic victory as far as India is concerned. But Ambassador, one final question before we let you go. Experts also say that this could be a result of the credibility of Washington, which is starting to wane amidst the warfare that is going on. How does this development really reorder the global high table?
No, it does. Meaning as far as we are concerned, having if not exactly peaceful, but more normal borders on the north, that will be helpful. That will allow us to focus on our development process, provide better living conditions to our people. As far as Washington is concerned, I think our partnership with Washington will continue. We have said that this is an indispensable partnership. If India wants capital, India wants technology, India wants a market, there is no better choice, there's no better option than the United States. And even for the United States, it has identified China as a systemic threat. So it needs India for that, in that sense, as a bulwark. So there are the interests of both the countries are converging. So I think that partnership, that relationship will definitely continue. There might be a few, what we have seen, this Guru Patwant Singh Pannu factor, there might be a few hiccups here and there. But otherwise, I would think now that we are on the verge of the US elections, irrespective of the results of the elections, the bilateral relations between India and the United States will continue to grow and will continue to expand and deepen.
Sure. On that note, thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us and sharing your thoughts on this crucial story that we're tracking right here on ET Now. Definitely a start has been made so far as reaching the normalization of ties between the two nations is concerned.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.